Hey everyone, I want to talk to you about hyperlinking instead of using in-text citations. So I know many of you will be absolutely crushed to learn that you don't have to use APA or MLA or CMS or whatever normal citations that you would use for an academic paper for this paper. We will certainly use MLA, APA, and other in-text citations in other papers, but for this one, since it's in that magazine style, you can use hyperlinks instead. So if you click on this link, I'm going to talk to you about how to use them. Right? So usually if you're using an in-text citation, right, that it would be some kind of parenthesis, author's last name, and a page number if it's MLA at the end of the sentence when you're citing someone else's work. When you're hyperlinking, it is not just putting a regular citation and then linking to it. That is not what this is. Let's delete that. All right, but you do need to give some context. Okay, so your hyperlinking, when you're, let's say you're linking to the academic study that you read for your difficulty paper, you would not need to type the name of it necessarily, right? But you might say something like a study published in 2012 in the Journal of the American Medical Association showed something. Right? And so then you can decide which word or phrase or words do you want to highlight and then link directly to. So here you can see this goes to a study from perhaps not the most credible of sites, Natural News, but if you do actually click on this, you can see that they're referring to a study that was from the Journal of the American Medical Association. So while the initial link looks a little sketchy, I'm not sure that Natural News is where I would want to get my scientific information from, but when you actually go to it, you learn, oh, the actual study is from here. So that's the thing that you would want to put in your paper. Right? You want it to be credible. You want the person who's reading it to say, I trust this information. So if we were just to say, a study showed, that's going to make us wonder, right? Which study? Where's the study from? Did you do this study about marijuana last weekend on your porch? Or is it actually from a scientific journal? Okay. So by adding that actual information into the sentence, it helps a lot to give context, right? So this one uses a bunch of context, which is very helpful. And then down here, there's very little context because it's something that's in parentheses. It's just kind of off to the side. It's a side note, no big deal. There's no reason to give a bunch of context for just this side note. Okay. If we look down here, you want to think about how much context do you want to give in order to be credible. Okay. So here, this says that records show 70% of all patients admitted for marijuana treatment are kids aged 12 to 14. That seems to me shockingly low, right? That's really young. So I would want to know what records, where is this information from, right? And we can look here that this link is taking us to something from the NIH, there's the National Institutes of Health. This is a governmental science organization, so that seems quite credible. So I would want to put that into this sentence, right? So records from the NIH show that 70% of all patients admitted are this age. Right? So that's going to help a lot. Whereas on the other hand, down here, this one says in countless studies. It doesn't say which studies, doesn't say where they're from, but I'm going to tell you that I'm okay with this. And so if we look at the context of this particular sentence, right, in countless studies, researchers have long since proven cigarette smoking is bad for you, is really what this says. I'm guessing all of us know that smoking cigarettes is bad for us, so we don't need to say all of these studies. We don't need to say which ones. No one's going to question this information. So it makes sense to actually just say in countless studies without having to give extra context, because it's just an obvious fact that everyone is agreed upon. So, but you can see the other issue is deciding, do you want to highlight countless studies? Do you want to highlight researchers have long since proven? Do you want to highlight National Institutes of Health? Do you want to highlight 70%? Whichever word, and there's not necessarily a right or wrong way to decide on that word, but know that of course that word is a little more emphasized than the other words in the sentence, so choose wisely which word you want to actually hyperlink from. All right, so the other document you have in Blackboard is about how to actually do the hyperlinking. And so I give you ways to do it in a Google Doc, in Microsoft Word, and if for some reason you were doing it directly into Blackboard, or Mesa's switching to Canvas eventually, so I'm putting Canvas there as well. Hopefully this makes sense. So you don't actually need a works cited page. You don't need the in-text citations, because your links will take me directly to that source, right? So keep in mind that most people do not actually click on hyperlinks. So don't assume that they understand what you're talking about because they're going to click on that link and go read the whole article and then come back to yours. They're not. I mean, I will. I'm going to check your links, but most people wouldn't, and you're thinking about an average reader of a magazine, right, of an online magazine. So when you are hyperlinking, sure, they can go to it for more information, but there needs to be still enough context in that sentence so that they don't have to go to this other site and actually read up on it unless they really want to. Your paragraph should make sense without having them do that. Well, hopefully that makes sense. Email me with questions, and that's it. Thanks, guys.